We have Mr. John McDaniel, Assistant Public Defender. He's at the Jackson County Jail. And in the courtroom here in Marianna, we have Mr. Jake Mitchell, the prosecutor. And I do not see Calhoun County lit up.
Hey, Judge
It's
Mercer.
8:34.
They just
Calhoun
told me
County
they're
has two
having
cases.
connection issues. So they're working on it real quick.
Is this Ms. Schuler talking?
Yes, sir. They're Calhoun's having connection issues, so I'm having them restart it.
Thank you, Ms. Schuler. So we'll come back to Calhoun County in just a moment. But ladies and gentlemen, we only have 2 cases in Jackson, I believe. So let me do Jackson first. And Corporal Drown, can you see and hear us there in Jackson County?
Yes, Your Honor.
Great. In Jackson County, our first case is Javarius McGriff. Mr. McGriff, good morning. Mr. McGriff, you're here because you've got a couple of issues going on. Good morning. You have a new failure to register as a sex offender charge in Jackson County. In addition to that, you're already out on bond on an old case that's been pending for a couple of years. That's 23-381 CF, Mr. McGriff. And in addition to that, you're on Bay County probation, felony probation out of Bay County in 21-591 CF. Mr. McDaniel, anything on behalf of Mr. McGriff?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Mitchell, anything?
What were those case numbers again? That he's
Judge,
on bond and on probation.
Let me give Mr. McDaniel, Mr. Mitchell these case numbers. He's on bond in 23-381 CF.
381.
It's a 2-year-old felony case in Jackson County that's still pending. And he's on probation in Bay County 21-5191 CF.
91.
Mr. McDaniel?
Judge, just take into account, I don't know how much you take into account of this, but I guess, these registrations are kind of complicated sometimes, and this is his first time having to do that. And it's supposed to be the month of his birth date, which was 2 weeks ago in June. I know the sheriff's offices, wherever they do, it's kind of I don't know if you want to take those things. What do you want to say?
I'm just sorry about that. It just slipped my mind, Judge. That's all. It just slipped my mind.
I mean, it's.
Mr. McGriff, if you weren't on bond and on probation, it'd be a little different analysis, but not a whole lot I can do when someone's on bond already. I'm not sure why your case is still pending after 2 years. That's unusual for that type of charge. It's not that serious of a case, at least based upon the charge. So maybe that case can get to trial or get dismissed or get pled soon. But it's still pending after 2 years, and you're still on bond and you're on probation. Are you here on this case, ma'am? Okay. First of all, we need to get the child out of the courtroom. Okay. Please.
Yeah.
Is that his son or his child? Yeah, he has no business. How old is that child? He's 7. He has no business being in the courtroom seeing his dad in jail. Okay. So wait just a second. Mr. Gibson, probation officer, going to stay with him right outside the door. Yes, ma'am. You want to say something?
Yes, ma'am. He didn't. They told him once a year. It was a mistake. He didn't know.
According to the complaint, he knew, and I'm just saying what the complaint says. The complaint says that he's required to register 2 times per year, his birth month and 6 months following his birth month. So we registered in December. And so his next birth month would be June of 25. Now, it does not say whether he registered in June of 24. I'm not sure when he became a sex offender, but regardless, he's on bond, he's on probation. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to revoke his bond, Mr. McDaniel. I want to give the state time to present that issue to Judge Garcia and let Judge Garcia address that. And I'm going to hold him 10 days on the VOP. Ma'am, just a second. I'll give you another chance to talk again in just a moment. So you've got no bond for 10 days. We'll see if Judge Garcia revokes that bond or not. That's her call. If she does, you're going to be there a lot longer than 10 days. But I'm going to hold you 10 days, ask Mr. Mitchell to notify probation. And if y'all want to file a motion for bond reduction, that's up to y'all, Mr. Mitchell. And we'll let Judge Garcia deal with it based upon the complaint. And it is very recent. Today is the 8th, and he was supposed to register in June, allegedly, which would mean he's 8 days late, 7 days late when he was arrested yesterday. Ma'am, you want to say something else?
Also, he was trying to do that 2 weeks ago, but the lady, she was in a meeting. He went to register his car. So he went up there when he was told to.
So he actually physically went to the sheriff's department? Do you do it at the sheriff's department, or do you do it at, is that? Because you said something about registering a car.
Yes, sir. He did that while he was trying to do that also.
But the car is a totally different part of the city you go to, right?
She told him to come there at the same time to register the car. And he did that.
Ma'am, I'm getting confused. You register your car at the courthouse. You register as a sex offender at the sheriff's department, which is a couple of miles away. So you're saying he went to the sheriff's department to try to register and the person to do it wasn't there?
She was in a meeting. The lady
Ma'am,
in the
listen,
front
listen to my question. Did he physically go to the sheriff's department?
office. Yes, he did.
How do you know that? Were you with him?
Yes, he was.
Okay, y'all physically went to the sheriff's department and the person to register him wasn't there.
She was there, she was in a meeting.
Okay, she was in a meeting, but she couldn't do it, so he tried.
Yes, sir.
When was that?
It was, 2 weeks ago on a Tuesday, whenever he was gonna go register, it was on a Tuesday.
So here's my question. I was understanding you to say that he didn't realize he had to register twice a year, but now you're saying he tried to register 2 weeks ago.
When he went up there, he, like I said, he thought that he had to register once a year.
Okay,
But then when he went up there, his probation officer had told him, that's why he went up there again to try to do it. But Miss, whatever her name is, she was in a meeting.
okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just see you tomorrow. Instead of holding you 10 days, I'm going to ask Mr. Mitchell to look into that claim that he tried. If he tried and she was in a meeting, then I'm a lot more likely to not hold him the 10 days and let everything just take its course. Mr. Mitchell, if you can attempt to verify that, or Mr. McDaniel, you may be able to make a phone call, but you may want to talk to this young lady here before she leaves. So you're welcome to come back tomorrow if you wish. I'll see him again tomorrow, ma'am. Please don't bring a child tomorrow, a young child at least. And Mr. McGriff, I'm going to see you tomorrow and see if we get any more information at that time. Do you have any questions, Mr. McGriff?
No, sir, I don't.
Ma'am, do you have any questions? Thank you for coming. We have Joseph Deese next. Here's your stuff from yesterday, no. Mr. Deese, good morning. Mr. Deese, you're here for first appearance. Thank you, Mr. Goodson.
Yes, sir.
You're here because you've been charged of violation of state probation. Mr. Deese, this is a warrantless arrest. I have received a text, Mr. Deese, Mr. McDaniel, and Mr. Mitchell from Captain Pelfrey at the Sheriff's Department saying that he anticipates new charges coming this week of armed burglary, grand theft, and criminal mischief.
On
so-
burger.
That's what they're saying they're going to be accusing you of. It really doesn't matter for my purposes this morning because I'm going to hold you 10 days anyway, which is what I do on a violation of probation. So if they have the new charges within the 10 days, we'll address them and see if there's probable cause. But for today's purposes, I'm holding you because you've been accused of violating terms of your probation based upon some items allegedly found during a traffic stop. So you've got no bond for 10 days, Mr. Deese. I'm going to see you in 10 days and we're going to see if they have filed an affidavit, the judge that signs that warrant will be the one to decide if there's a bond or not. If they haven't filed an affidavit and if they don't have new charges, you're going to be released likely. But let's give them 10 days and see what happens. And I did not write down that case number he's on probation for, but it is Jackson County, Mr. Mitchell. Mr. Deese, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
All right, sir. Have a good day. Corporal, let's get a urinalysis on Mr. Deese after first appearance, please, since he's on probation, sir, and let us know the results, please.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. And Corporal, is that it for Jackson County?
Yes, Your Honor, it is.
Great. We still do not have Calhoun County connected, so we'll have to jump over to Washington County. Madam Jailer, can you see and hear us in Washington County?
Yes, sir.
Great. First case in Washington County is Daniel Mullins. Mullins, good morning, Mr. Mullins. You're here for first appearance because your bond has been revoked. I watched the video because I wasn't real clear on what happened, but it appears that it was the results of your analysis yesterday in court. Judge Register revoked your bond. So, Mr. Mullins, you've got no bond at this point. You're going to be held until you can get back to circuit court and get this allegation against you resolved. Mr. Mullins, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Have a good day, sir. Derek Brown. Mr. Brown, good morning, Mr. Brown. You're here on a child support matter, Mr. Brown. The jail provided me a copy of a child support order, an order of contempt, which is dated January the 24th, which is what you're in jail for. But then I've learned since first appearance that order of contempt has been set aside. So the order was signed by the judge in January, and then it was set aside. Mr. McDaniel, help me out. It was set aside in what month?
May.
May. But then my understanding from communicating with the hearing officer today is they anticipate a new pickup order being signed this morning in the same case number. For what it appears, and this is a lot of guesswork on my behalf, is that there was a warrant signed because you were behind at some point. You brought it current, you made some payments, they set aside the warrant, and then since then you've gotten behind again. So I have an email from the child support hearing officer stating that she anticipates another warrant to be signed this morning, another pickup order, and she'll be seeing you on that case within the next 24 hours. Mr. McDaniel, is all of that your understanding also?
Correct. And just to give a little bit more clarification, there was two cases, 22-178, 22-179. I think the sheriff's office maybe ended up on 22-179 and didn't clear out 22-178. That's why it got picked up. But Judge Register signed an order back in May that said he had to make $1,000 payment on each case by July 7th, or the writ would be issued, or he had to make some kind of payment. I think it was $200 payment or $1,000 writ on each case would be issued on July 7th yesterday. I plan on, it's going to be sent over to the judge today. I don't want Mr. Brown to have to sit in jail any longer than he has to. Mr. Brown, are you able to pay that $2,000 purge?
No, sir, I've been incarcerated for the last 30 days. That's why I was not able to make a payment when I got out in May. 3 weeks later, I ended up getting locked up. That's why I was not able to make a payment. And I got probation on a different charge yesterday, but I never got released because of the child support warrant.
Ms. Donifro will see you tomorrow then, and she'll discuss, the hearing officer, she'll discuss it with you.
Okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
Madam Jailer, what we need to do in this case is I legally can't hold him because he's arrested on the case that the warrant has been set aside. However, the hearing officer advised me they anticipate a warrant being issued this morning. So what I need the jail to do is start the process of releasing him and follow up with the hearing officer, Ms. Donifro's office. And I believe a warrant has to be signed not only by the hearing officer, but also by a circuit or a judge, a circuit or county judge. So I think they're going to get the warrant process before you're processed out, Mr. Brown. But I'm not telling the jail to hold you illegally. I'm telling the jail to start the process of releasing you. But I expect
Yes,
that
sir.
warrant to be signed before they even get you out of jail. So that's where things stand. So, Mr. Brown,
Okay.
if they get it processed, then you're going to see the hearing officer tomorrow on a 48-hour hearing. If they don't get it processed, Mr. Brown, you're going to be released today. Mr. Brown, this
Yes, sir.
morning. Mr. Brown, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Have a good day, sir. We have Jessica Parrott.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Ms. Parrott, good morning. Ms. Parrott, you're here because you have some charges out of Holmes County. It looks like you're accused of one kind of burglary of a dwelling or structure. It says dwelling, structure, or conveyance. That's unusual because those are different crimes. So let me see if I can look at that and clarify that. Dwelling is a different degree crime than structure or conveyance, so it can't be all three.
No,
The
sir.
warrant itself, which I'm looking at now, says that's possession of weapon by a convicted felon, illegal and stolen property, grand theft of a firearm. It does say burglary of a dwelling, structure, or conveyance. When you read the fine print, it says residence, which would be dwelling. So the heading, I guess, is they're using the statute heading, which lists all the types of burglaries. But in the body of it, they're accusing you of a specific subsection, which would be burglary of a dwelling. Regardless, Ms. Parrott, there's no bond on the warrant. What that means is you're going to be held until you can get to Holmes County. When you get to Holmes County, which could be as early as today, it could be the next couple of days, but when you get to Holmes County, you go to another first appearance, and that judge will decide if you're entitled to a bond or not. But there's no bond on the warrant right now. Ms. Parrott, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Have a good day, ma'am. James Golden.
Yeah, sure.
Mr. Golden, good morning. Mr. Golden, you're here for a warrant out of Franklin County. It appears to be for the charge of grand theft. Mr. Golden, the jail didn't have a copy. They didn't receive from Franklin County a copy of the warrant. So I went on the statewide system this morning and found the warrant and printed it out. There's no bond on the warrant. It's a hold without bond, allegedly for a failure to appear. The warrant I've got in front of me is dated February of 2023. So what that means, Mr. Golden, is you're going to be held for Franklin County. They're going to pick you up. When you get picked up, you'll go back to Franklin County or go over there at least. You'll go before a judge, and that judge will have another first appearance and may or may not modify the bond. But right now, you've got no bond out of Franklin. Any questions, Mr. Golden?
No, sir. I just want to state for the court, I've been locked up for the last 30 months in
Where at?
DOC. So Holmes County is where I've been.
Holmes County Prison? Okay, so here's the question. Here's the question then. Madam Jailer, do y'all have any documentation showing that he came from the prison?
We picked him up on our charges from the prison. He did EOS from prison.
He had some charges. You picked him up for these charges here or for your local charges?
You know, for charges in our county, and he took care of them yesterday. So when we ran him, he had this, so he's with you.
So what I'm going to ask you to do is when you send him to Franklin County, please send him with the documentation that you got him from the Department of Corrections. The reason that's
Yes, sir.
important, Mr. Golden, is when you get over there, you show that documentation to your first appearance attorney. The judge needs to know that because it may not be a real failure to appear. It may be something that they need to set a bond on or release you on some conditions. That'll be that judge's call, but it doesn't appear that it may not be a real failure to appear, okay?
Yes, sir.
Have a good day, sir.
Thank you.
Madam Jailer,
Thank
anything
you.
else in Washington or in Washington County?
No, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Lastly, we have Calhoun connected now. And let me get back to my Calhoun County stuff. Mr. or Madam Jailer, can you see and hear us in Calhoun County?
Yes, sir.
Great. Calhoun County, I believe, only had 2 cases. First is Charles DeFada. Mr. DeFada, the jailer's going to show you where to stand at. Sir, you're here because you're accused of one count of resisting an officer without violence. Mr. DeFada, there is probable cause in the complaint. I looked at your criminal history. You have several charges, but most of them are really old and they're not significantly violent, Mr. DeFada. So let me ask you a couple of questions. Where do you live at, sir?
With my girlfriend, I'm Alpha now.
Okay.
Calhoun
And do you
County.
have a job? Are you employed?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Where do you work at?
Jerry Pivus Electric in Panama City.
How long have you worked there?
Since 2016.
Have you ever been charged with a crime outside of the state of Florida?
No, sir, I have not.
So I've got your Florida history, but I know nothing about out of state, but you don't have anything out of state, Mr. DeFada?
No, sir.
All right, let me listen to the state in defense and I'll make a decision on bond or release status. Mr. Mitchell, anything?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. McDaniel?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. DeFada, I'm going to let you pick between the bond and the conditional release. As I said, your criminal history is, it looks like it's been several years since you've been charged with a crime based upon what I've been provided. So if you want to choose the bond, it's $2,500. If you'd like to accept the conditional release, I'm going to offer you a conditional release. If you do accept the conditional release, you would have the standard conditions of every release, Mr. DeFada. Do you understand the choice between the bond and the release, or do you want me to explain it further?
What's the conditional release? What's the conditional release?
Conditional release, so that, you know how a bond works, I'm assuming, but a conditional release is a little different. A conditional release doesn't cost you any money to get out of jail, but there's a trade-off. The trade-off is on a conditional release, you have more rules to follow than a bond has. So bond costs you money and you have fewer rules to follow, but on a conditional release, you have more rules to follow. You've got to check in with a conditional release officer once a week. Usually it's by phone. You've got to pay a cost of supervision, but it's usually cheaper than a bond. Usually the cost of supervision is around $30 to $50 a month. So it's just a monthly cost instead of going through a bondsman. But you've got to check in. You got to stay out of trouble. They can drug test you. You can't use alcohol. So those are some of the conditions of the release. So some people say, I'd rather post a bond, have to put up some money, but have fewer rules to live by and not have to answer to an officer while I'm out. Other people say, I'd rather take the conditional release, stay out of trouble, follow the rules I'm given. It's almost like probation while the case is pending. So you can let the jail know whether you want to choose the bond or the conditional release after first appearance, and they'll either let you make the phone call for the bond or let you accept the conditional release. If you accept the conditional release, you'll have to meet with a conditional release officer somewhere today, probably right across the road at the courthouse. It's probably where they're going to send you to meet with a conditional release officer. So you can make that decision after first appearance. Do you have any other questions you want to ask me about it?
No, sir, that's it.
All right. Wish you the best, sir. Anthony Brown. Mr. Brown,
Yes, sir. Good morning,
Brown, you're here because, good morning. Mr. Brown, you've been accused of violating in terms of your probation. The warrant I looked at this morning in your case has a bond already on the warrant. the judge put a cash bond in your case of $782. It appears your violation was based primarily or perhaps solely on financial issues. So you've got a cash bond of $782. If you post that cash bond, you'll be released. Mr. Brown, if you're not able to post a bond, then what will happen is the public defender's office will see you at the jail in Calhoun County. Mr. Brown, do you have any questions?
Yes, sir, I do. Well, this is a fairly old case back in before December, sir. They let me out on 6 months probation. Well, I violated that with a new charge, which is a felony battery. I had 52 days originally on this charge, and then when I violated this time on a felony battery, I got 42 days. However, I'm looking to go to a probation hearing tomorrow for a felony case. Well, those 2 cases were running together. That's why it was so high, $700 some odd, but the original bond was like $250. And it's just, if you look in the record, it's like 2 cases running together. And when I went to the felony hearing, that is if they couldn't find that it's misdemeanor case. However, it was like lingered out in a limbo somewhere. And I told the judge in the felony case, he was like, well, if it come up, we'll deal with it later. But at the time, they let me go on felony probation and we weren't able to find it. But then when I got arrested this time, it just popped up with a warrant. So I'm trying to figure out why. You know what I'm saying? As of today, I have 94 days in.
Yeah, Mr. Brown, whether or not you're entitled to credit for the time you were serving on the felony is not necessarily an easy question to answer. You're not necessarily entitled to credit for that. You may be, you may not be. It can be fairly complicated. The bottom line is I'm not going to release you on another judge's warrant based upon a very limited amount of information. What I am going to do is I'm going to ask Mr. McDaniel to notify his counterpart in Calhoun County. I believe that would be Ms. Parrish. Mr. McDaniel, please notify Ms. Parrish, the Assistant Public Defender in Calhoun County, and let her know that Mr. Brown is in jail with no bond. If Ms. Parrish determines her review or she comes and sees you, one or the other, that you shouldn't be there, then she'll bring that up to the judge's attention immediately, either Judge Young or Judge Grover in Calhoun County. But I'm not going to get involved in their case, given the limited amount of information I know. I just don't know enough about it. Not comfortable imposing myself in their case. Okay.
Yes, sir, because I mentioned something about it to the judge, and he was like, he didn't see it nowhere in the record. I don't understand how was that possible when it was a Calhoun County case.
There's no way I can answer that. I don't know how he couldn't find it. I don't know if it was there. I have no idea. But Ms. Parrish should be out there to see you in the very near future, sir.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anything else in Calhoun County?
No, sir, that's it.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Yes, sir, you too.
Mr. McDaniel, anything else from the Public Defender's Office?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Mitchell?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
So we're going to disconnect because I believe Judge Taylor needs this connection to connect to his county. He's still in Holmes County in just a few minutes. We're going to disconnect. If there's someone still connected, once I disconnect, you may have to disconnect also because that may prevent Judge Taylor from connecting. It did yesterday. Hopefully it'll work better today. As far as first appearance for Jackson, Washington, Calhoun, and Gulf had none. That concludes first appearances today, and first appearance court is adjourned.
Judge, Gulf County's on it, and if they're not in there, I don't see them in there, I don't think, so, or Calhoun County.
But I don't think Gulf actually has to physically connect. I think the problem, and Chris is in the courtroom, I think the problem is when like a JA connects before I disconnect.
If the room does not disconnect from here first, they're not going to be able to connect it.
So we're going to disconnect Mr. McDaniel, but Chris is going to monitor it on his computer, hopefully, and make sure everybody's connected. Thank you, Mr. McDaniel. Thank you, Mr.